The cold metal floor of the prison cell hummed with the sound of engines. The air was dry and sharp, filled with the faint smell of burnt wires. A single light flickered above, painting shadows that danced across the walls like ghosts. Eli Carter sat on the floor with his back against the wall. His wrists were locked in glowing cuffs made of strange blue energy. Every time he moved, the cuffs sent small shocks through his arms. He had stopped trying to break them weeks ago. His muscles were weak now and his face was thin and pale. He had lost track of time. Out here among the stars there was no sunrise or sunset, only the endless dark. He could hear other prisoners sometimes. They whispered from behind the walls. Some were humans, others were alien voices that sounded like growls, clicks, or songs. They all shared the same fate, captured, broken, and sold. Eli didn't even know where he was anymore. Somewhere beyond the known systems, somewhere far from Earth. He used to be an engineer. He used to build machines that made life easier. But now he was a machine himself, fed at the same hour, forced to work, punished for slowing down. Every day the guards came tall and scaled, their eyes glowing red. They never spoke, only barked orders. He hated their silence more than their cruelty. Eli looked up at the small window, a round glass circle high above the cell door. Through it he could see a slice of space, stars, so many stars. He used to love looking at the stars. Now they looked like cold eyes watching him suffer. He whispered, his voice dry and cracked. I just wanted to see them up close, not like this. Suddenly the ship trembled. The light above him flickered faster, then turned red. Sirens screamed in every corridor. Eli froze. The alarms meant one thing, attack. The guards shouted outside in their harsh alien language. He heard heavy footsteps running down the hall. Then a sound like thunder, the roar of explosions. The entire ship shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere far away, metal screamed as it tore apart. Eli crawled to the window, trying to see. Outside, flashes of blue light streaked across the stars. Laser fire. Someone was attacking the ship. Please, he whispered, pressing his forehead to the cold wall. Please let it be someone who can end this. The door to his cell suddenly hissed open with a sharp shk. Eli shielded his eyes from the bright light that filled the room. A tall figure stepped inside. For a moment he thought it was another guard, but no. This one was different. She moved like a shadow wrapped in light. Her skin shimmered silver under the red alarm lights, smooth like polished stone but alive. Warm, her eyes glowed faint blue, calm yet fierce. Long strands of hair floated around her shoulders as if gravity itself feared to touch her. She wore dark armor that looked ancient, marked with strange symbols. In one hand she held a curved blade that hummed with energy. In the other she carried a small device flashing green. She looked at Eli, her eyes narrowing slightly. You are human, she said. Her voice was soft but carried strength. Every word perfectly clear, though her accent was strange. Eli nodded, too shocked to speak. She stepped closer, raising the device toward his cuffs. With a quiet click, the blue energy faded and the cuffs broke apart. Eli stared at his freed wrists. The pain of movement returned like fire, but he didn't care. He looked up at her, confusion and fear mixing in his eyes. Who are you? He asked. The woman looked over her shoulder, listening to distant footsteps. Then she turned back to him and said calmly, Someone who doesn't like slavers. Before Eli could speak, the ship rocked again. The floor tilted. Sparks flew from the walls. She grabbed his arm and pulled him to his feet with surprising strength. You're coming with me, she said. They ran down the corridor together. Dead guards lay on the floor, their weapons still glowing. The walls were covered in smoke and light from explosions. Eli's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't know where she was taking him. He didn't even know if she was human-friendly. But at that moment, she was the only hope he had. Wait, why help me? He shouted over the alarms. She didn't answer. She simply turned her head slightly, her glowing eyes meeting his. For reasons that matter only to me, she said. Another explosion ripped through the ship. The ceiling cracked open, and through it Eli saw stars and fire. The woman pressed a small device on her wrist. A shimmering blue barrier surrounded them. Hold on, she said. And before Eli could even breathe, they were gone, ripped from the burning prison ship into the silent, endless sea of stars. The stars stretched around them like a frozen ocean. Eli's lungs burned as air rushed back into his chest. 1 second he had been in a burning prison ship. The next, he was standing on the metal floor of a smaller, quieter vessel. The sound of alarms was gone. The air smelled clean and cold like rain after fire. He turned, trying to steady himself. The woman who had saved him stood near a glowing console. Her silver skin reflected the soft blue lights of the cabin. Her armor was scorched from battle, smoke rising from its edges, but she looked calm, almost untouched. Where are we?" Eli asked, his voice trembling. She didn't answer at once. Her fingers danced across the screen and the ship's engines hummed to life. Stars outside shifted as they sped away from the wrecked prison ship, which now burned like a dying sun in the distance. Finally, she turned to face him. "Safe for now," she said simply. Eli looked at her closely. Her eyes were not human, but there was something deep inside them, something more than alien. A quiet sadness, maybe. "You saved me," he said softly. "Why?" Her gaze drifted to the stars. "Because I once watched someone die in chains and I did nothing." The silence between them grew heavy. Eli felt the weight of her words. "What do I call you?" he asked. The woman looked at him again, then replied, "Widow of Vareen." He repeated it slowly. "Widow of Vareen." The name sounded sharp yet beautiful, like the sound of wind against glass. "Who are you, Widow?" She walked past him and sat at the pilot's chair. "Once," she said quietly, "I was the wife of a warlord. My world, Vareen, was proud and strong. We built ships, armies, and empires. My husband led them. We believed we were unbreakable." Eli listened, unsure if he should speak. Her voice was calm, but each word carried pain. "The slavers came during peace," she continued. "They promised trade, they lied. They took our people, children, soldiers, even our leaders. My husband fought them and they killed him in front of me." Her fingers gripped the armrest. "They called me the Widow of Vareen after that. I took their ships, their weapons, and their captains. I have been hunting them ever since." Eli swallowed hard. "You've been freeing slaves." "I have been erasing debt," she said coldly. Then her tone softened. "But I suppose, freeing slaves too." He wanted to thank her, but the words felt too small. What thanks could repay a life saved? Instead, he looked around. The ship was small but elegant. Its walls were smooth silver, its lights dim and warm. On one wall hung a single picture, a hologram of a man standing beside Widow. He was tall, with dark armor like hers, but his face was blurred, fading. Eli pointed at it. "Your husband?" She nodded once. "He died believing honor would save us. I learned that only fire saves." He fell silent. He could feel the grief in her voice. It wasn't just pain, it was memory carved into her soul. After a long pause, Widow said, "You are from Earth." "Yes," Eli replied. "Or I was. I don't even know how far from home I am now." "Far enough," she said. "Your kind is rare in this part of the galaxy. The slavers like humans. You are strong, adaptable, and curious." "Curious," Eli frowned. "Yes." She turned slightly, studying him. "Even now you look around, you ask questions. Most slaves forget curiosity first. You haven't, that's why I chose you." "Chose me?" She stood, moving closer until her silver eyes were level with his. "I didn't come for the others, Eli Carter. I came for you." Eli's heart skipped. "For me? Why?" Before she could answer, a loud beeping filled the ship. Widow rushed back to the console. "They're tracking us," she said sharply. "The slavers. Their fleet is on our trail." Eli looked out the window. A dozen red lights glowed in the far distance, ships closing fast. Widow's expression hardened. "They never stop hunting. Not for me. And not for you now. What can we do?" "We fight," she said simply. Her fingers pressed a sequence of glowing runes and the ship's hull shimmered. Metallic plates shifted like living skin, forming sleek, sharp edges. Outside, energy shields crackled to life. Eli felt the floor hum beneath his feet. He had no idea what was happening, but one thing was certain. This woman was more than a rescuer. She was a storm. As the stars blurred and the slaver fleet loomed closer, Widow looked at him once more. Her voice was calm but burning with purpose. "Listen to me, human. You've been a prisoner long enough. Tonight you fight beside the Widow of Vareen." And as the first enemy ships fired, the quiet stars of space were set ablaze again. The stars outside the ship turned into streaks of light as Widow's vessel sped through the void. The hum of the engines filled the silence between them. Eli sat near the side window, staring at the glowing blue trails behind them. For the first time in months, he was not in chains, but freedom felt strange, almost too quiet. He still couldn't believe it. One moment he was a slave, and now he was flying through space with a silver-skinned warrior who had destroyed his prison. He should have felt alive. Instead, he felt Lost. Serana sat at the pilot's seat, eyes fixed on the console. Her hands moved with calm precision, but her jaw was tight. She said nothing for a long time. Finally, Eli spoke. "They'll keep following us, won't they?" "Yes," she said without looking up. "The slavers do not forgive. You escaped and I interfered. That makes both of us targets," Eli sighed. "So much for freedom." Serana turned slightly, her eyes glowing faint blue. "Freedom is never given. It must be defended." Her words were sharp but not cruel. Eli could tell she meant every one of them. He nodded slowly. "Then what now? We just keep running?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she pressed a button, and a holographic map filled the air. Dozens of red dots glowed, enemy ships, bases, and routes. One larger mark pulsed brighter than the rest. "This," she said, pointing, "is the heart of their network. The slaver base of Rygos 9. Every chain, every cage, every order comes from there." Eli frowned. "You're not thinking of—" "I am," she interrupted. "If we destroy it, their command falls. They will scatter like ash in a storm." "That's suicide," Eli said. "They'll be waiting for you." "They've been waiting for me for years," Serana replied calmly. "And yet I still breathe." Her confidence shook him. She wasn't fearless, she was something else. Something built from pain and purpose. Eli rubbed his temples. "I don't even know how to fight." "You will learn," Serana said simply. "You have a mind that adapts. That is why humans survive when others fall." She walked over to a storage panel and opened it. Inside were weapons, sleek and metallic, glowing faintly blue. She handed him one that looked like a rifle, though lighter and smoother than anything he'd ever seen. "Try this," she said. He held it awkwardly. "Where's the trigger?" Her lips curved slightly, the closest thing to a smile he had seen from her. "It listens to your intent. Think of firing and it will obey." Eli hesitated, then aimed at a small metal cup sitting on the floor. He imagined pulling a trigger and the weapon hummed, releasing a burst of blue light that vaporized the cup instantly. He gasped. "That's insane." "Efficient," Serana corrected. "Now you see why I do not miss." He laughed softly, the first real laugh in months. "You're something else." "I am what the stars made me," she said quietly. Hours passed. Serana moved through the ship with silent grace, adjusting systems, checking scanners. Eli followed her, watching closely. He noticed how careful she was, how every action had purpose. She wasn't just a fighter, she was a survivor. When the ship entered a quiet zone between galaxies, Serana dimmed the lights. "We rest here," she said. Eli nodded and sat by the viewport. Outside, a massive nebula glowed like a sea of fire and ice. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Serana looked at it too. "Once I thought beauty was weakness. My husband used to tell me otherwise." Her voice softened. "He said beauty reminds us what we're fighting for." Eli turned toward her. Maybe he was right. For a moment she looked almost human, calm, distant, but vulnerable. Then the alarm flashed red. "They found us," she said quickly, moving to the controls. "Their scouts are near." Eli jumped up. "What do we do?" Her hands flew over the console. "We fight or we run. Either way, it will cost us something." The ship shuddered as blasts hit the hull. Eli grabbed the seat. "We can't outrun them, can we?" "Not for long," she replied. Her voice remained steady even as the ship shook again. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." Eli tried to think, but fear pressed against his chest. "You could have left me back there," he said suddenly. "I could have," Serana said without looking at him. "But then I would have been no better than them." The words struck deep. The ship spun sharply, engines roaring. Serana fired the rear cannons, her movements fast and smooth. One enemy ship exploded into a cloud of fire. But there were more. Many more. Eli's voice trembled. "We can't win this." She looked at him, her silver eyes glowing bright. "No, human, not yet. But freedom is not about winning." She pulled a lever, and the ship dived into the thick blue fog of the nebula. Lightning-like energy crackled across the hull. It's about never surrendering. Outside, the stars disappeared into blue fire. Inside, Eli felt something stir. A spark he thought he had lost long ago. For the first time since his capture, he believed again. The ship drifted in silence through a cloud of blue mist. The engines were off, and the stars outside looked soft and distant, like sparks hidden in fog. Inside, the air hummed quietly with the faint rhythm of life support systems. Eli sat near the window, staring at the glow of the nebula. It looked peaceful, almost like an ocean made of light. After days of fear and running, this quiet felt unreal. His reflection stared back at him from the glass, tired eyes, unshaved face. A human lost among stars. Serana moved silently through the cabin, her steps smooth, her silver skin shining faintly under the low lights. She was working on a console, checking readings. Her armor was gone now, replaced with a simple dark suit that made her look less like a warrior and more like something human. Eli turned to her. "How long can we stay here?" "Not long," she replied without looking up. "The nebula hides us from sensors, but it also drains the ship's power. We'll need to move soon," he nodded. "You've been fighting these slavers for years?" "Yes," she said softly. "Since Vareen fell." Her voice always changed when she said that word. Vareen. Like it carried both pain and pride. Eli hesitated. "Do you ever rest?" She looked at him now, her eyes glowing faint blue. "Rest is for those who have finished their battles. Mine is not done," he smiled faintly. "That sounds exhausting." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "And yet you humans never stop fighting either. Even when you have no chance to win." "That's called stubbornness," Eli said with a grin. Serana's lips curved just slightly, a ghost of a smile. "Stubbornness," she repeated as if testing the word. "Maybe that is why I saved you." Eli chuckled softly but then fell quiet. There was something in her eyes, something deep, hidden behind years of pain. He stood and walked to the small galley at the back of the ship. There was a box of supplies, alien tools, nutrient packs, and a few old objects. He found a small silver cup and filled it with warm liquid from a dispenser. The smell wasn't bad. "This your version of coffee?" he asked. "Coffee?" she repeated, unfamiliar with the word. "It's a human drink. Makes mornings bearable." Serana raised an eyebrow. "And what are mornings?" Eli laughed. "It's the start of a new day, when the sun rises and you get another chance." She thought for a moment. "Your world must be kind to give new chances every day." "Not always," he said. "But we keep pretending it is." He handed her the cup. She looked at it curiously, then took a sip. The expression on her face almost made him laugh. "Too bitter?" He asked. "Too alive," she said quietly, placing the cup down. "It feels strange," he smiled. "That's coffee for you." They sat in silence for a while, surrounded by the hum of the ship. Outside, streaks of blue light shimmered through the fog. "Tell me about Earth," Serana said suddenly. Eli blinked. "Earth, you really want to know? I have heard it called many things. Small, fragile, full of war. Yet your people endure. I want to know why." He leaned back thinking. "Earth isn't perfect. We fight, we argue, we make mistakes. But we also build, create love, even when it hurts. That's what keeps us alive." Serana watched him quietly. "Love," she repeated. "Your people use that word often." "Yeah, it's complicated," Eli said with a smile. "It means caring so much that it hurts sometimes, but it also gives you strength." Serana looked down at her hands. "We have no word for that on Vareen. We believed in loyalty, duty, and honor, not love." "That's sad," Eli said softly. She looked up at him, her glowing eyes reflecting the nebula. "Perhaps," she said, "or perhaps love is too dangerous for warriors." Eli wanted to answer, but something in her expression stopped him. For a moment she looked fragile, almost human. Then the moment passed. She stood and walked to the main console. "The ship is ready," she said. "We move now," Eli sighed, standing. "Where to?" "Ragos 9, she said simply. He froze. "You're serious?" "That's suicide." Serana turned to him, her silver eyes hard as steel. "You said your world believes in new chances. Then take one with me." Her voice was quiet but filled with fire. He realized then that she wasn't just fighting for revenge anymore. Somewhere deep down, she was fighting for something else. Something she didn't yet understand. Maybe even for him. Eli took a deep breath. "All right," he said. "Then let's go finish this." Serana nodded once, almost approvingly. As the engines roared to life and the blue mist began to fade away, she looked out the window at the stars. "Your world has love," she whispered. "Mine has war. Perhaps together we can learn both." And with that, the ship shot forward, leaving the quiet nebula behind. Two souls from different worlds, flying toward danger, and something far greater than either of them could yet name. The ship sliced through the darkness like a silver arrow. The stars grew sharper now, brighter, as if they were watching what was coming. On the console before her, Serana's eyes followed the red dots on the scanner. Enemy ships, countless of them, guarding the slaver base of Regos 9. Eli stood behind her, his heart pounding. He could see the planet ahead, a cold black world wrapped in a ring of broken ships and old satellites. Lightning danced across its surface, bright and angry. It looked like a graveyard of forgotten souls. So that's it, Eli whispered. Regos 9, Serana nodded slowly. The heart of the chain. She pressed her hand to the controls and the ship's lights dimmed to stealth mode. The engines purred quietly, smooth as a heartbeat. Once we begin, there is no turning back, she said. Eli swallowed hard. Then let's not turn back. For a moment she looked at him. Not as a soldier looks at an ally, but as someone who sees something new, something real. Then she turned back to the stars. Brace yourself, she said. The ship dove into the shadow of a massive wreck, a long-dead cruiser floating above Regos 9. From there, they could see the slaver fleet spread out like a net, protecting the main fortress. Bright beams of red light swept across space, scanning for intruders. Can we slip through? Eli asked. Not unseen, Serana said. But unseen is not my way. Her hands moved across the controls and the ship's weapon systems came alive. The hum of the cannons filled the air. The silver hull shimmered and blue energy ran across its surface like fire. Eli gripped the railing. You're really doing this? Yes, she said quietly. For them. For all of them. She hit the main thruster and the ship burst out of the shadows like a storm unleashed. Blinding light filled the view. Serana fired the first shot. A slaver frigate exploded in an instant, torn apart by energy beams. Then chaos erupted. Dozens of ships turned toward them, firing. Red and gold streaks of plasma filled the sky. The Widow of Vareen moved like lightning, dodging, weaving, firing back with perfect aim. Eli watched her, amazed. She looked almost like she was dancing, every movement fluid and fierce. But they were outnumbered. Too many. The ship trembled as one of the blasts grazed their side. Sparks flew inside the cabin. Shields at 40%, Serana said calmly. Eli shouted over the noise. We can't fight all of them! She didn't answer. Instead, she opened a side panel and pulled out a small glowing crystal, blue as ocean light. It pulsed faintly in her palm. What's that? He asked. My life, she said simply. It is bound to my ship. When it fades, I fade. Eli froze. You're linked to it. She nodded. It gives me power. It keeps the ship alive, but every battle burns it faster. He stared at her. Then stop fighting. You'll die! Her eyes flashed. Better I die ending this than live watching others in chains. Before he could argue, another blast hit the ship. The control panel sparked. The alarm screamed. Smoke filled the air. Serana stumbled, catching herself on the chair. The blue crystal flickered weakly in her hand. Serana! Eli shouted, grabbing her arm. You're hurt. She looked at him, her expression soft for just a heartbeat. Do not waste your breath on me, human. Finish the mission. She staggered to the controls and fired one more volley. A wave of explosions tore through the slaver fleet, sending ships spinning into the void. Eli jumped to another console, trying to stabilize the ship. His fingers flew over the alien symbols, guided more by instinct than knowledge. I can't hold it much longer, he shouted. Serana turned her gaze to the planet below. The fortress loomed beneath the clouds, a glowing black spire surrounded by fire. We end it now, she said. She pressed her hand on the control core. The ship's engines roared, and blue light flooded the cabin. What are you doing? Eli yelled. I'm using the last of the crystal's energy, she said. It will destroy the fortress and me. Eli's eyes widened. No, there has to be another way. There isn't, he grabbed her shoulders. You saved me. You showed me stars, hope, everything I thought I'd lost. You can't throw that away. For the first time, her voice trembled. And you reminded me what it means to feel alive. Outside, the fortress began to fire. Giant beams of red light tore through space. The ship shook violently. The crystal in Serana's hand cracked, its glow dimming fast. Eli's heart raced. You're not dying today, he said. She looked at him, confused. He pulled the reactor cable from the ship's floor and pressed it against the dying crystal. You said it gives you power, right? Then take mine. Eli, no, too late! Energy surged. The cabin filled with blinding light. The ship roared like thunder. Eli felt the heat, the pain, but he didn't let go. The crystal burst into brilliant blue fire, flooding the ship with life again. When the light faded, Sarana stood still, breathing hard, but alive. The fortress below was gone, a burning scar on the black world. The slaver fleet was silent. She turned to him. "You fool," she whispered. "You could have died." Eli smiled weakly. "So could you. Guess we're both stubborn." For the first time, Sarana laughed, a quiet, almost human sound. Outside, the ashes of Rygos 9 drifted into the stars. Inside, two broken souls finally found something worth fighting for. Silence returned to the stars. Where there had been fire and fury moments ago, now only quiet remained. The black planet of Rygos 9 burned below, its fortress shattered, its chains broken. For the first time in years, the screams of slaves had gone still. Inside the small silver ship, the air was heavy with smoke and the sharp smell of burned metal. Systems flickered weakly. The hum of power was fading, replaced by a soft crackle of failing lights. Sarana stood near the control deck, her silver skin marked with faint burns. Her eyes glowed faintly, dimmer than before. In her palm, the life crystal flickered, weak, cracked, nearly dark. Each pulse was slower, softer. She turned to Eli. He lay on the floor near the reactor core, his chest rising and falling shallowly. His hands were burned, his face pale. Sparks still glowed around the cables where he had connected the reactor to her life crystal. "Eli," Sarana knelt beside him, her voice trembling. "Why would you do that?" He looked up at her, eyes half open, a faint smile on his face. "Because you needed power, and I had some to give." She shook her head. "You are a fool. That connection could have killed you." Eli coughed weakly. "Could have," he whispered, "but didn't." Sarana stared at him. In all her years, through war, pain, and loss, no one had ever risked themselves for her. Not even her own kind. Not since the day her husband fell. She felt something inside her chest twist, a feeling she could not name. It was too soft to be fear, too sharp to be peace. "You humans," she said quietly. "You give without reason. You fight without promise. You burn yourselves for others," he smiled faintly. "Maybe that's what makes us human." She touched the side of his face, her silver fingers cold against his skin. "And what am I?" she asked softly. Eli looked at her, eyes heavy but clear. "You're learning to be one of us." Her throat tightened. She had seen death, caused it, escaped it, but this moment hurt more than any battle. She stood and walked to the console, forcing the ship's systems back online. Her hands trembled slightly as she worked. The ship's lights flickered, then stabilized. Outside, the stars glowed again, soft and endless. Eli tried to sit up. "Did we win?" Sarana looked at the burning remains of Rygos 9. "Yes, but it cost too much." "Freedom always does," he said quietly. She turned toward him. "You talk of freedom as if it is a thing you can hold." He smiled. "It's not something you hold. It's something you fight for. Even if you never see it." She studied him for a long moment. Her heart, if she still had one, felt heavier. Then she pressed her palm to the crystal once more. Its faint light spread through the ship, and the hum of power grew steady again. The life crystal pulsed brightly, stronger now, but Sarana felt her own strength slipping. She realized what he had done. The reactor had saved her, yes, but at a cost. Some of his life had flowed into the crystal. She could feel it, the strange rhythm of human energy mixed with her own. "Eli," she said quietly, "you did more than give power. You gave part of yourself." He laughed softly. "Guess that makes us even." She knelt beside him again, her voice breaking. "No, you don't understand. The link, it's bound now. Your energy flows through me. If you fade, I fade too." His eyes widened. "Then I guess you'd better keep me alive." Sarana's lips curved into a small, shaky smile. "I will." She lifted him gently, carrying him to the medical pod at the back of the ship. He was heavier than he looked, but she didn't care. She placed him inside and activated the healing field. Warm light surrounded his body. Eli's eyes fluttered. "You know, for someone who claims she doesn't believe in love, you're doing a pretty good job showing it." Sarana froze, then looked down at him. "Love," she whispered. "You humans use that word for everything." "Maybe," he said weakly, "but sometimes it's the only word that fits." She said nothing for a long moment. The hum of the ship filled the air, steady and calm. Then she leaned close and whispered, "If love means refusing to lose you, then maybe I understand it now." Eli smiled before sleep took him. "That's the human promise," he murmured, "to keep each other alive, no matter what." Sarana stayed beside him, watching the healing light fade to a soft glow. The stars reflected in her eyes, and for the first time in her long, lonely life, she felt something that wasn't pain or duty. It was hope. Outside, the void stretched endless and silent, but inside, two lives were now bound by something stronger than fate. And as the ship drifted gently through the starlit dark, Sarana whispered to herself, "I will keep this promise, human. Even if the stars forget your name, I will not." The stars shone softly against the endless dark, scattered like silver dust across the sky. The war was over. The slaver fleet was gone, burned to ash in memory. Yet in the silence that followed victory, peace felt strange, fragile, almost too quiet to trust. Sarana stood by the ship's viewport, her eyes tracing the curve of a distant blue planet below. It shimmered with oceans and clouds, alive and breathing. Earth. Eli's home. Behind her, the faint sound of movement made her turn. Eli was awake. He sat up slowly in the medical pod, his eyes still tired but clear, the soft light of the stars reflected in them. "You're alive," Sarana said, her voice softer than the hum of the ship. He smiled weakly. "You sound surprised," she shook her head. Not surprised, relieved. He looked at her for a long moment, as if trying to understand the woman before him, the alien warrior who had once been a ghost of vengeance, now looking almost human in the pale light. "How long was I out?" "2 cycles," she said. "Long enough for the universe to grow quieter." Eli stretched his arms, still sore but strong again. "And you?" "I am changed," she admitted. She held up the life crystal. It no longer glowed blue. It pulsed gently with a golden light, warm and steady. "When you saved me, something of your world, your essence, merged with mine. I feel your heartbeat when I look at the stars." Eli smiled softly. "Guess that makes us connected." Sarana looked out the window again. "You wanted to go home. We are here." Eli walked beside her, gazing down at Earth. "It looks smaller than I remember," he said quietly. "But somehow, bigger too." Sarana studied the blue planet with a mixture of curiosity and longing. "Your world is loud with life. I can feel it from here. Every breath, every sound, every dream, it echoes." He nodded. "That's what makes it special. It's not perfect, but it's alive. Every human carries a piece of it, even in the darkest places." Sarana turned to him. "I think I understand now. Why you risked your life. Why your people keep fighting even when they fall. Because we're stubborn?" Eli joked. She smiled faintly. "Because you love. You love things that fade. You love worlds that hurt you. You love even when it breaks you. That is what makes you dangerous," Eli chuckled. "Dangerous? That's one way to put it." The ship glided closer to Earth's orbit. Through the window, cities shimmered like golden veins beneath clouds. Eli's chest tightened. It was beautiful, and it was home. Yet a small part of him hesitated. "You're not coming down, are you?" he asked quietly. Sarana didn't answer immediately. "This world is not mine," she said at last. "It would not understand what I am." Eli turned to face her fully. "Then let me show you. Earth isn't about understanding, it's about feeling. You saved lives, Sarana. You deserve to touch the ground of a free world." Her silver eyes searched his. "Would they not fear me?" "Maybe," he said. "But they feared the sky once too. And still we learned to fly." She looked away, silent for a long moment. Then slowly she reached out and placed her hand in his. Her touch was cool but gentle. "Then show me your world, human." He smiled and guided her to the pilot's seat. "Hold on tight. First flights to Earth are a little bumpy." The ship entered the atmosphere, glowing like a falling star. Fire surrounded them, painting the sky in orange and gold. Sarana watched in awe, her eyes wide, her breath caught in her throat. "It's like the heavens are burning," she whispered. "Just the air welcoming you," Eli said. They broke through the clouds. Below them stretched vast green lands, blue oceans, mountains dusted with snow, and cities gleaming in sunlight. The view took Sarana's breath away. "So much color," she said softly. "So much life." "That's Earth," Eli said. "Messy, loud, and full of wonder." The ship landed on a quiet hill by the ocean. The wind rushed in as the doors opened. Sarana stepped out first. The ground was soft beneath her feet. The smell of salt and rain filled the air. She closed her eyes and let the breeze touch her face. "This," she whispered, "is warmth. Real warmth." Eli stood beside her, watching her expression. "Now you know what I fought to come back to." Serana turned to him, her silver hair moving in the wind. And now I know why your kind never stops hoping. The sun broke through the clouds, light spilling over them both. Serana looked at the horizon, at the endless sea, the sky, and the promise of a world reborn. She reached out, taking his hand again. Maybe, she said softly, I was never saving you, Eli Carter. Maybe you were saving me, he smiled. Maybe we saved each other. They stood there together, human and alien, warrior and dreamer, as waves crashed below and the wind carried the scent of freedom. And in that quiet moment, as the sun set over the ocean, the Widow of Vareen finally understood what it meant to love earthly things. Not because they were perfect, but because they were real.